Tonight on the Black Channel, let's talk about grooming, and I'm not discussing about combing your hair. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting superfortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media, and this is the Black Channel. And I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program, I gotta tell you, man, there's so much going on here. And I wanted to decide about where I would start, so I figured I would just go ahead and start at the top. And whole lot going on here, and like I say, YouTube's messed with one channel already, so I guess they can go ahead and mess with the other one here now. Let them go ahead and do that. So, y'all gotta understand, Jeffrey Epstein had a lot of friends in a lot of places, and over the decades, folk talk about the Ku Klux Klan and how the Ku Klux Klan infiltrated the courts and law enforcement and things like that. But they don't really talk about how the sexual deviant class infiltrated Hollywood and corporate America. They really found those to be, very fertile proving grounds. And one of the ways in particular here, let me tell you now, if you go and order something from Postmates, you might want to make sure they wash their hands and anything else. Because, they are just going full bore with it. Pardon the expression, but they are really just letting it hang out. I'm going to start here, but I'm not going to end with Postmates, because let me tell you, lot going on. And I just found it all to be very interesting here, that we've gone well beyond what folks were talking about before. And they're letting you know, we think this is you can investigate those people if you'd like to. You'll find some interesting things there. I gotta watch what I say here tonight. Postmates is owned by Uber. Postmates is owned by Uber. Now, at first, I thought their account had been hacked, and I was waiting for somebody to say, hey, our account's been hacked, and we're so sorry, and everybody gets a free meal this Wednesday. I was waiting for that to happen. It didn't occur. And then you see some things stand out, and that lets you know, and understand something. I don't have children. I don't have biological children. I don't have any biological children that are biologically mine. But for those of you who do, I've got nieces, I got nephews, I got, spiritual children of mine. And let me tell you, for those of you who have kids, this isn't a matter of, well, maybe we've all just gotten older. Let me tell you something. Murdering people, that's not something that, it used to be okay. Now there's some things that are just eternal. And grooming your kids, people who mention sexuality in reference to your children. Now, that's not something that, maybe you're just too old. Maybe you've just gotten old. Don't sit up here and run game on yourself. This isn't a matter of, well, maybe you've gotten old. Sex ed shouldn't be in schools to begin with. They're not teaching black history properly, if at all. I don't believe in turning over sex education to them. And even if you did, sex ed's supposed to be about reproduction. It's not supposed to be about, and here's how to enjoy sex. It's supposed to be about reproduction. These folks have let you know we're full-blown targeting your children now. We're targeting your children now. And where does it go? Where does it lead? Because you see, there's got to be a code to this. There's got to be a code to it. It's got to go somewhere. It's got to go somewhere. It's got to go somewhere in particular because there's got to be a code to it. Now, I've talked about this for the longest time also. There's got to be a code to it. And I saw something. That I was really debating on whether or not I should do it last night, but I had bigger fish to fry last night. Had to take care of that. But I saw this. I saw this from CNBC. Let me get this front and center. You take a look at the title here. Why Californians are fleeing to Mexico. And I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, okay. Why Californians are fleeing to Mexico. I think they got a black woman even narrating it. And I was like, okay, let me go ahead and check this out. And some things speak for themselves. All I can say is start your watches for the damn foolery. I'm going to start this from the very beginning. All I got to say is start your watches for the countdown to the foolery.
In 2021, over 360,000 people left California in what many are calling the California Exodus, leaving for states like Texas, Arizona, and Washington. But a rising number of them are migrating out of the country altogether and instead heading south of the border. Today, more and more Americans are leaving the hustle and bustle of California for a relaxed, more affordable lifestyle in Mexico.
We were able to cut our budget in half, which allowed us to really focus on our careers and the things we wanted to do artistically.
Well,
thousands and thousands of people just crossing daily.
By the way,
cut our budget in half, which allowed us to really.
By the way, this thing is 15 minutes long, and I'm not going to play the whole thing, but, yeah. I got a feeling this is going somewhere. I got a feeling this is going somewhere. Got a feeling this is going somewhere. So they want us to know Californians are going to Mexico, and who is their poster child couple. And in case you wanted to know who is in charge, and this, you can see from the body language, who's in charge of the relationship. You can see it from the body language. You can see who's running things by the body language there. Now, there are two things I want you to take a look at. First of all, take a look here. Travis is, Mr. Grossi is over there on the right. He is a content creator. Content creator. That's great. That's wonderful. Content creator. But I wanted to keep playing because I want to see, okay, well, Mr. Grossi, y'all moved from California to Merida, Mexico. I'm checking to see. I want to see what your mate does for a living.
And the
affordable lifestyle in Mexico.
We were able to cut our budget in half, which allowed us to really focus on our careers and the things we wanted to do artistically without having to just like hustle every day, every week, every month to just meet the bare minimum.
California's pop.
Every day I'm hustling. Okay, so they showed Travis there and didn't show what his mate does for a living. As a matter of fact, old dude is just sitting there all quiet as kept. He's sitting there all quiet as kept.
We were able to cut our budget in half, which allowed us to really focus on our careers and the things we wanted to do artistically.
Asked more of
Matching glasses? Couldn't help but notice that too, by the way. Matching
California
glasses?
for
Matching glasses? All right. Well, since his partner ain't really got very much to say, I'm like, okay, well, what does he do for a living? Does he work, or is he a kept? Oh boy, I'm getting all kinds of trouble.
Hollywood, we were paying.
All right. Mr. Simmons Jr. is a singer-songwriter. He's a singer-songwriter. And I'm asking myself, how much money does he make being a singer-songwriter? He's down there in Mexico. Is he bilingual? He doesn't strike me that way. Oh, the shirt. Looks like a picnic umbrella. All right, but oh, the shirt. All right. Flee to Mexico. First thing I was taking a look at. I'm thinking I'm getting ready to watch something that's about socioeconomics. That's what I thought it was. They wanted to make sure you knew.
more Americans are leaving the hustle and bustle of California for a relaxed, more affordable lifestyle in Mexico.
We were able to cut our budget in half, which allowed us to really focus on our careers and the things we wanted to do artistically without having to just like hustle every day, every week, every month to just meet the bare minimum.
All right. Now, the reason why I'm going through all this, and you all know, is the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought is the headquarters of the new black media, as the place that founded focusing on the socioeconomics of these things. The first thing you have to take a look at is, okay, if I see you pushing a specific agenda, especially a sexual one, and I know your priorities, I know who you are, I know what you're about, so I know the turn is coming here. You're doing this for a reason. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to track that, because there are many ways to dominate a people. And in the words of Dr. John Henry Clark, everything that moves in their society moves for war. So I want to know, okay, where's the warfare aspect of this? Where is the domination aspect of it? Because if you keep moving a certain way, and if you keep moving like I see you moving, then I'm like, okay, this is going somewhere. And there's a lot that I learned by watching this. At least I wanted to see a couple of things. I wanted to get a few details in there. There's a lot that I learned. And it all seems to dovetail together very well. Now, what they try to do is a very brief history of Mexico, which, like I say, I don't know if you want to get them sitting up here telling you that, but very interesting when you see these things.
Border Patrol was created, and since then, millions of Americans have visited, vacationed, and relocated to Mexico. As of 2020, 800,000 Americans are living in Mexico.
800,000 Americans are living in Mexico as of 2020. 800,000 are living in Mexico. Now, they put this thing together. Obviously, it's supposed to be like focusing on to try to make it look like black people really got some major real estate down there and whatnot, or that whoever they put together to have the producer of this, whatever, thinking that make this into a black thing or whatnot, and it's not. So pay attention, though, to keep track of the numbers. Make sure you know about the numbers. People understand something. The government's going to make sure it tries to get the numbers as accurate as possible, because you don't know if a plan is working if you don't have accurate numbers. The numbers have to be accurate. Otherwise, you don't know.
These migrants can be divided into 3 categories.
Now, do you hear this? She's calling the Americans going to Mexico as migrants. So take a look at that. They're calling the Americans living in Mexico migrants. Like I say, they hire Negroes who are just going to go along with whatever the plan is, whether they be, immigrants or not.
800,000 Americans are living in Mexico. These migrants can be divided into 3 categories: retirees, working professionals, and the biggest share of the population, the Mexican Americans returning to their roots.
Oh, so in other words, not Americans, but all right, fine. Did you get that part? But check this out one more time. Who are the three groups going there?
800,000 Americans are living in Mexico. These migrants can be divided into three categories: retirees, working professionals, and the biggest share of the population, the Mexican Americans returning to their roots, can be divided into three categories: retirees.
So these are white folk who got their money straight for the rest of their lives. These are white folk who are not having to work for a living for the rest of their lives. So now they're going down there, and something I talked about a decade ago, the Mexicans are coming up here to work, and the white folk are going down there to Mexico with their generational wealth and gobbling things up.
Working professionals, and the biggest share of the population, the Mexican Americans returning to their roots.
Now you say returning to their roots, but then again, they're returning to their roots as what? They're not returning to their roots. They're returning to their roots as retirees. They're returning to their roots later in life. In other words, you're trying to separate their ethnicity from the fact that, by the way, they're returning as retirees. They've been Americanized at that point. They ain't returning to the hood. So just understand, they're sitting here lying through their teeth. They're not returning to the hood. Yes, this goes along with what tonight's program is about. There's dimensions to this, and I want you to see why it is they would do that and why the corporations are in on it.
Working professionals, and the biggest share of the population, the Mexican Americans returning to their roots.
There's also a parallel migration, of course, from U.S. citizen children that are being returned or that are returning to Mexico with their parents, who many of them are Mexican citizens and are being either repatriated or deported to Mexico as well. These U.S. citizens make up about 2/3 of the U.S. immigrant population in Mexico, and so therefore their futures and the children growing up and integrating into Mexican society is an important factor.
The rising migration of U.S. citizens is giving way to increasing investments and development, which in turn creates opportunity for more Americans to make the move. The rising cost of living is perhaps one of the biggest drivers behind this phenomenon. California ranks number 2 in the country's most expensive states to live in, according to a study by Credit Karma.
For our one-bedroom apartment in North Hollywood, we were paying $1,600 a month. And that was just for the rent alone. And there we had a car, so that included car insurance and car payment and all of those kinds of things that you have to pay for. And so just the rent alone, we're paying half of that.
We moved in November of 2020, so it was still kind of like in the thick of COVID-19 and the pandemic before the vaccines. So our rent is about $850 a month. Which includes 2 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a music studio for David, we have a pool and a clubhouse area, 24-hour security with a guard at a gate. Going from a 1-bedroom where we were like on top of each other to having different spaces to work has been like life-changing.
Glad to see they're not on top of each other anymore. In any case, yeah, they're letting you know what's going on down there, because in reality, these are like enclaves that have been built. But let's be very, very clear. This ain't for black folk now. This isn't something black folk put together. But did you hear him run down those numbers real quick? Did you hear him run those down? I hope you heard him run those down, by the way.
And to do that half of the price
Right.
was mind-blowing.
Real estate in California is getting more expensive and more competitive. The median price for a home in California is about $800,000. Only 25% of California households could afford that in the fourth quarter of 2021.
Now, think about that for a few moments. So, in other words, the Latinos coming out of Mexico are trying to run up to California where they cannot afford to live. And then the folks in California are going down to Mexico and buying it up dirt cheap. Think about that for a few moments. They're leaving Mexico and coming to California to purchase at outrageous prices. And the white folk in California, Mr. Grossi, I'm pretty sure his partner, Mr. Simmons, is his tag along. They're going down there and buying up everything dirt cheap.
2021.
Here in Baja, we offer a more affordable alternative, bigger prices, and what a lot of people tend to say is that we have a better.
By the way, do you see that?
For
Do you
that,
see
in
that?
the fourth quarter of 2021.
Here in Baja, we offer a more affordable alternative, bigger prices, and what a lot of people tend to.
Do you see that? You see the flags? Think about that for a few moments. You see the flags. What does the flag represent? The flag represents dominance, not just presence. Think about that for a few moments.
Says that we have a better quality of life. You know, there's no traffic, there's sunny days, there's beautiful
There's no traffic? What about the drug traffic? Never mind.
beaches.
Unlike the jobs in California, Mexico's wages are low and labor is cheap. The minimum wage in California is $15 per hour, while the minimum wage in the majority of Mexico is 172 pesos per day, which is equivalent to about $8. For comparison, 1 hour of working in California is equivalent to almost 2 whole work days in Mexico.
We do want to say, like, we understand how lucky and fortunate we are to be able to earn in dollars and spend in pesos. So we do recognize that that's like an incredible privilege, and we feel super grateful to be here and to be able to do that.
Healthcare is another important factor that.
Yeah, they got together and take advantage. You see, when you destabilize people, when you get them confused, when you do that, you can capitalize on that. By having them focus on symbolic things, or by getting them to allow their ideas and ways of doing things. See, dominance runs on many levels. And when people want to introduce dominance to your children, when they want to introduce some type of sexual dominance to your children, when you have an enterprise, when you have a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that's focusing on sexual dominance with your children, while you wake up one day and whole nations, see, what you want to see the power of being on code. You wake up one day and whole nations, and by the way, down there in Mexico, how much dominance of the children? How much dominance of the children goes on down there? How much goes on down there?
Many consider when moving to Mexico. The U.S. spends much more on healthcare than any other country in the world. But one study showed that overall, its performance and quality ranks last among the highest income countries.
You know, I got dental work and stuff. I mean, Mexico's responsible for saving my teeth.
I went to an allergist in LA and was told I did not have enough money to afford the allergy shots that I actually needed. And that was one of the first appointments I made in Mexico, was with an allergist and a dermatologist. And not only can I afford allergy shots here, but like my allergist coordinates with the dermatologist, who coordinates with our primary care physician.
Yeah, I had to get hard contacts and braces. I felt very cared for, and it was very easy.
This frame right here. I don't know.
To access these kinds of things that I know I could not get the contacts that I needed because they were so expensive in the States, and we thankfully were able to do that here.
Since the pandemic, migration trends to Mexico have accelerated. COVID-19 has made remote work the new normal, prompting many to move out of big cities and into more affordable ones.
The pandemic really changed the dynamic, but because folks suddenly, the cost of taxes in the U.S., the crime rates, the politics, all the things that people are unhappy with in California are wanting to come down to Mexico and suddenly realizing, gee, I can, as long as I got good internet, I can come to Mexico and live in a condo and stare at the ocean and take care of my work and enjoy a different lifestyle.
This is the U.S.-Mexico border in Tijuana. Every day, about 200,000 people commute between the two countries. Many of them work in California and live just below the border in Baja California due to its proximity. Take Tony Smith, for example. She works in San Diego, but lives 9 miles away in Tijuana.
Now, they keep trotting this woman around because, by the way, I've seen her before. And they keep trotting her around and make it seem like black folks are really just balling out and going to live in Mexico like that. So they keep trotting her around. This is one of their mascots.
I still work in the States. I'm a coach over at a community college, and all of my business is in the States. So I commute daily back and forth.
The wait to get through the border ranges from
in the States. So I commute daily back and forth.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me, because I'm taking a look at her. And by the way, I'm going to say something, for non-foundationals, there's something about that space in the front teeth. Non-foundationals and that space in the front teeth. I just couldn't help but notice. Now, that's one of those markers I kind of look for, but I got questions about this one, and I couldn't help but notice she looks similar. Is this her daddy? I'm just questioning whether or not dude here is her daddy, because she sure does look. I don't know. I'm seeing it kind of look familiar to me, but okay. Buck in the eyes? All right. Buck in the eyes? Okay, but I ain't saying nothing. I'm just saying. Okay.
I will leave my car and I'll just walk. It's easy getting into Mexico. It's just the difficult part, getting out of Mexico, which can take hours. But I learned if I could just commute by foot, it drops my commute.
Yeah, I mean, she does have that LGBT vibe. So far, if that's true, all the black folk involved here, well, that kind of says a lot, doesn't it? That kind of says a lot, doesn't it?
Time, at least by 2 hours.
Real estate agents in Baja California are also seeing an increase in people looking to buy property who don't necessarily want permanent residency in Mexico.
I would say at least half are probably coming down from California. There's a lot of folks that have second homes down here, vacation homes and or rental properties down here that come from Southern California.
Critics of
Did you get that? Listen very carefully now, because I don't think the folks who put this together did a focus on LGBT for nothing. I don't think they put a focus on LGBT for nothing. So let's follow the money.
At least half are probably coming down from California. There's a lot of folks that have second homes down here, vacation homes and or rental properties down here that come from Southern California.
Critics of this migration trend say that Americans are buying or renting property in Mexico at a premium and pricing locals out of the market.
Certain neighborhoods are now becoming too expensive for Mexican citizens to live in, because most of the times people that are actually buying these property developments or buying even, say, an apartment are being able to do so because they either make money in US dollars or because they're working remotely.
For those on temporary visas, working remotely allows them to continue paying their taxes to the US without paying any to Mexico. And there are some parts of Mexico known as the Torres Libre Zone, where visas go unchecked under the radar. The idea is that Americans who spend their money in Mexico are still contributing to the country's economic growth.
So if you want to know why it is that so many Mexicans, for example, are like, well, it's a free fire zone on the border, it's because down there where they've been dominated, you hear that? There are areas where they don't even check visas and whatnot. So you're white and you just there.
Remotely allows them to continue paying their taxes to the U.S. without paying any to Mexico. And there are some parts of Mexico known as the Tourist Libre Zone, where visas go unchecked, under the radar. The idea is that Americans who spend their money in Mexico are still contributing to the country's economic growth.
It's just a dog-eat-dog world. And I get why a lot of Mexicans, they want better for their families. So they're trying to get across the border to America.
So you get that?
It's just a dog-eat-dog world. And I get why a lot of Mexicans.
So you see, she doesn't care about any of that. She doesn't care about any of that. She's like, as long as I get mine, I don't care what's going on at the border, and she's okay with that. She's okay with that. That was all it took to buy her off. Think about that. That's what they got to represent you.
They want better for their families. So they're trying to get across the border to America while the Americans are doing the total opposite. I feel as though like the money that we're bringing in can definitely help build better roads. We're just definitely helping the economy by just bringing in the dollars so that they can put it into, whatever it is that they want to put it into.
It's super important to us to mitigate our economic impact wherever we go, and we try to do that by highlighting local groups and services, small businesses, and we're super conscious of where we spend our money.
So you come down and take land and you compensate them by buying some beans.
Where we go, and we try to do that by highlighting local groups and services, small businesses.
Think about that for a few moments. Follow the logic of that for a few moments. You sit up here and buy land. You're taking over land. And you're compensating them by buying some beans. Here, I'll take up this acre of land and I will pay you 3 cents for some beans. Think about that for a few moments.
And we're super conscious of where we spend our money.
Some argue the communities where Americans are moving to are not the same as the ones where locals reside. Those areas have less crime, are more expensive, and tend to be closer to beaches and other tourist attractions.
The foreigners or the Americans are only going to live in certain places. And these places are primarily targeted towards Americans. The local Tijuana people are not going to live in these places. Like there's high-rise buildings and stuff like that. The apartment I had last time that had a full desk set up for remote working, office chair, everything. This was not something set up for a Mexican family. This was something set up to target foreigners to come over and work remotely.
While American dollars have contributed to recent developments in Mexico.
So you hear them say that. You hear them say that, but then the final report on
Something
it.
set up to target foreigners to come over and work remotely.
While American dollars have contributed to recent developments in Mexico, there are some setbacks to the rapid expansion. Supply chain issues are rising as demand beats out supply.
It's making development increase.
So in other words, when you see these kind of things happen, and when you see folk do this kind of stuff and they report it in this kind of way, they're doing that for a reason. They're doing that for a reason. Understand how dominance works is what I'm trying to tell you. Understand how dominance works. And when they keep including that kind of thing, when you see that happen over and over, there's a reason why they want to do that. Today, I know when we talk about grooming, you're usually thinking about the kids. That's usually who you think about, the children. Don't get me wrong, that's important. But I'm talking about the grooming of adults. I'm talking about the grooming of grown people. I'm talking about grooming you. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the grooming of you. I'm talking about the grooming of yourself. I'm talking about how you can be over time just put into place and they can keep doing this over and over again. And next thing you know, you just pop up in so many areas. They've been flying below the radar all this time. Now they're getting a lot more bold with it. They're getting a lot more bold with it because the goal is to groom you. The goal is to groom you. The goal is to do this with you. The goal is to groom you to accept domination of yourself. The goal is to get you to accept domination of your children. The goal is to get you to accept whatever their strategy is for bringing in buffer classes. The goal is to get you to accept that. That's the part I want you to understand. When I'm talking about grooming here tonight, I'm referring to that. I'm referring to getting you groomed. I'm referring to getting you unfocused. I'm referring to getting you confused. I'm referring to getting you to make one concession here, another concession there, and another, and another, and another. That's the part I want you to understand, because many of you have children, and I want you to understand with your children, do your children really understand this? For those of you who have kids, you living in California or whatnot, not even just California, Texas, there are other states where this happens. Your children grow up around this. Your children are being taught this. Your children are being exposed to this. Have some of you asked about those kind of things? Have some of you asked about your children's view or perspective on the buffer classes? While we're getting ready to start Juneteenth, have you asked your children about Pride Month? I guarantee they probably know about that. They probably know about that. But do they know about any other? Have you considered that? This isn't accidental when you see this steady drumbeat happen. This isn't accidental. This isn't accidental when you got major corporations involved. This isn't accidental. They're like right now, hey, we feel like we got enough money behind us now. We can push the agenda. We can go ahead and push the agenda full bore. We can go ahead and do that. After all, you can't live without your Uber Eats. You can't live without your Postmates. You can't live without that. You didn't have it 3 years ago. Now you can't live without it. Now you can't live without it. I want you to recognize when you are the one being groomed. I want you to recognize when you are the one who has been groomed. I want you to recognize when you're the one who has been groomed, is what I'm trying to tell you. I want you to see and recognize when you are the one that over time they've cultivated you. Now those of you who have children, now you have children. And if you have kids, that's going to be the kind of thing that catches up. So when you see this thing happening here, how many of you understand and realize that you are actually their target? That the corporations have gotten behind this because this is how dominance works. And with so much of the talk about grooming going on, I see a lot of you who are parents, and if you're not able to articulate to your children, then guess what? You've already been groomed. If you have not articulated to your children, then you've probably already been groomed yourself. That's the point I wanted to make. When I saw all of this, I was like, you know what? If you got kids today, this is a hell of a position to be in. If you don't know how to articulate this properly, this is a hell of a spot for you to be in today. This is a hell of a spot to be in today. I've got some other things I want to cover here in just a few moments. However, we're going to go ahead and take a very brief non-commercial break here before we do. I know it's sobering, but it's important. We're going to go ahead and do this. In the meanwhile, here, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program here on PayPal, CashApp, or Super Chat. So thank you very much for that. We appreciate that here. So Ryan, Andrew L., thank you very much. Leslie, and everyone else who has supported tonight's program here, thank you for keeping up with us. We're going to take a very brief non-commercial break, and then we'll be back. This is The Black Channel.
Hey, I'm Marcus. For a while, I walked around with this empty feeling inside. I had a full-time job, but not in the field I wanted to be in. But then I came across this book where it was like, the title was just for me. Guide to Being Black in IT. I read the book and the author took me through scenarios and gave me tips. I sat down and read it and it only took an hour. After I got done, I took advice in the book, practiced in the labs, and got certified. Then I literally got up and applied for a position with the company I've been looking at for a while and got the job. Thanks to that book, I worked my job with confidence. If you're looking to get into IT or even in the field, now this is a must-read book. Go to www.beingblackinit.com.
I am black first. I am empowered. I am on code. I am motivated. I am a proud foundational. My name is Noria Sellers, and nothing will come between us. Buy the sci-fi novel, Nothing Will Come Between Us. Order today at Amazon and Google Play. Visit Spirit of 1811 Publishing. Our story, our family.
Join 6zeros.net, a forum built to discuss all things relevant to black people. On our forum, a check doesn't mean you're famous. It means your blackness has been verified by our staff. Sorry, Chad. We also have premium merchandise with same-day shipping on most orders. And when you're ready for some dope content, check out the 0 Hour blog. Don't just sign up, post. I'm having a really good time with you tonight.
I'm having a good time with you too.
Want to go somewhere private? Just for us?
I like that.
Great. Meet me at 6zeros.net. Black owned, black operated.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
Are you tired of being overcharged and forced into paying a monthly subscription for your Mac and Windows software? Well, if you are, currently we're having a 50% off discount on all the latest Mac and Windows software, such as AutoCAD, SolidWorks, Photoshop, Microsoft Office, and much more. Our 50% off discount will be ending soon, so be sure to text us Need Software to 323-407-8214. That's 323-407-8214. We aim to please, so expect 24/7 technical support, the latest premium software, instant software links delivered to your email, and PayPal's buyer's protection guarantee.
When you need a reliable influx of capital to grow your business, Spectre Capital Finance provides fast, individualized working capital loans with lines of credit to take your business to the next level. SpectreCapitalFinance.com.
This is The Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. And there are some other things going on here as well that dovetail off what we're talking about here tonight also. So we want to join into that. One of the things in particular that I'm taking a look at here, of course, is on the political front. So one of the things in particular I've been watching here is there's been a story, in case you were not aware of it, or if you were, you'll be aware of it here now. Just thinking about this for a matter of fact, by the way. This is going on from CNN Politics. AOC says that she won't commit to backing Biden in 2024. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Yeah, just in case folks want you to think it was a shoo-in. The Latinos are letting you know that, by the way, nobody's able to shame her with the Trump talk now, are they? Interesting. They only tried it over here on us, but nobody tries to shame them with that kind of talk. So I just thought that was very interesting to have. In the meantime here, I want to see, I've been working on this tonight here. I want to see if I can go ahead and get Marcel Dixon on the line here. You can go ahead and unmute yourself, Marcel. You got him on the road right now. He's traveling on his Senate campaign, congressional campaign rather. But welcome back to the Black Channel, brother.
Hey, Jason. Thank you for having me. Just because I'm not 10 minutes from my home, but I'm in Clyburn country, so the connection's weak. So if I go out, I'll be able to get back in soon enough. But how are you?
We're glad to have you here tonight with us here. We're coming down the home stretch of this here. The election here is in a couple of days. So definitely we want everybody to come out and support here. You have the only candidate who is expressing anything of a black agenda. He has been unapologetic. He has been uncompromising. He has been very well in representing us. He has been extremely studious. He is well read and well versed. He can give you all the details and stats. That's the kind of people that we need. Period, point blank, in the discussion. So, Kamala, for anybody who thinks that Clyburn is a shoo-in, for anybody who thinks that everything's going great over there on the home front, they got, I think, Kamala Harris trying to stomp for him here. Now, that's something you never would have had to do here before. But this year in particular, it seems to me somebody is worried, Marcel. Do you get the same vibe?
Yes, I do. When you got to bring out Kamala Harris, and, she's black now all of a sudden. When she's doing good, she's Asian. But when someone's in trouble, she turns to black woman. So now when you got to get Kamala Harris down in South Carolina talking about collard greens, she ain't mentioned nothing about reparations. She ain't mentioned nothing about saving our land. But when you got to get her to come down, you know that Clyburn knows he's in trouble. Not only that, everyone, my sister, my aunt, everyone has said they've seen more of this man on TV, his yard sign, on billboards, as I mentioned before. first time we've ever seen that. So he has signs all over the place. And that's just a sign that he knows his time of neglecting Black Americans and doing nothing is coming to an end.
I wonder if she talked about Chuck Taylor's too, by the way. So just every time this woman tries to appeal to black folk, it is just the most out of touch Karen pandering that you could ever imagine. And this was the best he could do in that regard. I want to find out what you think of one other thing here. I was just talking about how the stories come out here that AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, has, when she was asked about endorsing or backing Joe Biden for 2024, she said, I'm not sure we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So I just wanted to find out from you, because a lot of us have been telling the Democrats and whatnot, you know, they thought they were going to throw their hat in the ring for other groups and that, they'll make up that shortfall. Even AOC is like, well, I'm not sure. So I just wanted to get your read on that. And what do you think might be prompting her reaction to say something like that?
Well, one, just in regards to Joe Crow or Joe Biden, whatever you call the segregation, the mosquito face bastard, if I get to that bridge, I'm jumping off of it. Okay? I'll rather throw me in the water with the sharks than going through him again. So I can make it very clear, I will never support that segregationist, anti-black, bigoted, mosquito face senile bastard. Now, as far as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez goes, I'm going to make a prediction here. Let's give it maybe a week or two and watch Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, when she goes back to being Asian, watch them come out with some policies now for quote unquote Hispanics, whatever race they decide to identify. Watch, because whenever other groups says, I'm not going to support you, they don't do that whole neck rolling, finger wagging thing. They actually come to them with policies. But when Black Americans who have sacrificed the most for this nation, have fought to defend this nation, that has never fought to defend us, has never done right by us, whenever we, rightfully so, say, I'm not sure if I'm going to support you, give me some specific policies for my people, we get the finger wagging. That's what our ancestors died for. Like I've been saying, don't tell me what my ancestors died for. Tell me what they were living for. They were living to keep their land. They were living to get good schools. They were living to own more homes. And right now we own less homes than we do during Jim Crow. They were living so we can have our own thriving Black communities. So I find it funny how every other group is able to say, I'm not sure if I'm going to defend you. Watch them come up with policies for that group. But when we, Black Americans, the group that always acting to save America, rightfully says we're going to withhold our vote because you have yet to earn it, we only get the finger wagging what our ancestors died for. How about this is one of the times where I'm going to say, yeah, let's leave the past in the past. Don't tell me what happened with my ancestors. I'm still living now. What happened in the 1960s ain't got nothing to do with what I'm going to do now. Tell me what you're going to do for me here in 2022. So I find that very hypocritical too, like you said.
You know, if you go to Jim Clyburn's Twitter page for the Whip Clyburn one, so it's got 165,000 followers, and the last tweet that he put up was 4 hours ago. Today marks 6 years since the Pulse nightclub massacre, it says. As we honor the 49 people that lost their lives in the tragedy, we are reminded that the threat of hate persists in our country. None of us are safe until we are all safe. And I want to think about that for a few moments. Now, he's up for re-election, and that's the only thing he could think to talk about here on this Sunday. Not a word about reparations, by the way. You go back through his tweets, and not a word about that. He's worried about hate. Not a word about white supremacy. He's worried about hate. So, Marcel, I think he's, even at the last minute here, he's making his priorities clear.
He's not going to change, okay? And he's trying to hold on to that seat so his daughter, Mignon, she can take over and she can push that same, let's do policies for everyone else besides Black people. This is the same man that when our brothers and sisters were gunned down in Buffalo, he didn't say a word about it until the next day, okay? Because I brought it up. Even when he mentioned it, he didn't specify that it was an act of anti-Black hate violence. He didn't say, and stop anti-Black hate. He did that when Asian Americans were killed in that massage parlor. He cited it as an act of anti-Asian hate. He said hashtag stop Asian hate. And most of he introduced policy to protect Asians. For people of his own lineage, he will not identify as an act of anti-Black hate. To this day, he has yet to do it. He has not used the hashtag Stop Anti-Black Hate, but most egregiously, he has not introduced any legislation to protect Black Americans. Even more disgusting, these little dusty-ass billboards he got around here, he got on there making America's greatness accessible to all. And he's underlining the word all. And we all know what he's trying to do. He's trying to make it seem like my platform is only about Black Americans. No, it ain't only about Black Americans, but it's Black Americans first, and it's going to stay that way. Because everyone's been okay with Black Americans last. Now that someone, little old me, is trying to put in Black Americans first, it's more Black people losing their mind about that, and not in a good way, than anyone else. So he's still putting this all lives matter, rising tide lift all boats policies up front that we have seen haven't done us any good. So he's doubling down on saying he's not going to do a damn thing for us. I was unfortunately in the same building as him, sharing the same air as he, unfortunately, and he gave this 23-minute rambling speech, and not once did he mention any issues and specifically impacting Black Americans. Here's the thing, Jason Black, I don't know if you know this, South Carolina's Democrats are 70 to 80% Black, meaning there would be no Democratic Party in America, but especially not in South Carolina, without us. And for them to think they can just get on stage and talk about us, those days are over.
You know, I'm also taking a look at James Clyburn's page here on Twitter, and there was something else I also noticed. If you go there, you can take a look at it, and this was kind of weird. This is kind of weird. He retweeted something from somebody named John Wright. Kind of weird. As a Gully Geechee farmer, and this is dated from April 11th, but Clyburn's retweeted it, I know firsthand the inequities that we face with maintaining our land, which is why I'm grateful that our congressman is demanding immediate change at the heirs property meeting, all while continuing to fight for a more fair and equitable nation. So it doesn't take any guesswork whatsoever to tell who that particular retweet is aimed at. It doesn't take any guesswork at all. So to anybody saying that Clyburn is A, not worried, B, not caring, C, not concerned, like I say, I don't know what else to tell you at that point.
John Wright is a member of his team. He's the guy that came to me yesterday saying he wanted to let me know that South Carolina 6th Congressional District is the 6th poorest district in America out of 435 district total is bullcrap. So I shoved it in all the documentation I had, and he tried to walk away. You don't come in my face from my face when you don't leave from my face. So I ran down the hallway shouting at him saying, "No, here it is. Here are the receipts. I got receipts. It's like I'm taking something back to Walmart. Receipts. What receipts do you want?" So that's John Wright. That's a member of his team. He knows good and damn well Clyburn doesn't give a half of a damn about helping Black people keep their land. Hilton Island was 90% Black. It's now 90% white. Charleston, when I was born, was 62% Black. It's now 21% Black. Black men have been pushed into a
Okay, he's out there in the sticks right now and everything. By the way, that's the great infrastructure that's that great infrastructure that James Clyburn is paid for out there. So, okay, I think we got you back, Marcel.
Jason, you there?
I think we got you back.
Okay, I'm trying to cut out it because Clyburn broadband. You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. There's Clyburn, AT and Clyburn, but go ahead.
Okay, I'm about to pull the connect to my internet in my yard now. But I may go out for a bit because every time I put it in my yard, I go out. All right. Okay, Jason. Okay, so John Wright, I want.
Okay, I'm waiting for Marcel to get back on there right now.
Okay. Hello?
All right, there you go.
Okay, yeah. So John Wright is a member of Clyburn's team. Clyburn's been in office for 30 years. In that time, Hilton Island, which had already started being gentrified. Well, Hilton Island was once 90% Black. It's now 90% white. Okay, St. Simon's Island in Georgia was once 90% Black, now almost completely white. The Fusky Island, completely black, now completely white. Charleston, once 62% black when I was born, now something like 21% black. What happens? Black Americans are losing their land. So what happens is the little bit of money they might be able to get, they go and they buy the lowest wages, and we have the least amount of wealth in the country. So when we miss 3 months of payment and we're thrown out on the streets, unlike before, we have no land on which we could build a home. So now our safety net is gone. So when you see that black Americans are 15 to 20% of the population, conservatively speaking, but with 55% of the homeless, it's not a surprise. Clyburn had 30 years to write legislation to help black Americans get our land back, to help us get compensation for our land. These hotel resorts and golf clubs are all built on land that our people once owned. We should be getting a portion, a share of those billions of dollars they bring in every year from tourism. We don't get a penny from it. Clyburn had 30 years he said about that, and he's done nothing. But they can say in this song and dance that he cares about land all of a sudden.
That's a very good point to bring up, because along with the natural resources and things, for those of you who don't know, everybody talks about Florida and whatnot, and they talk about the beaches of Florida, and then but they don't talk about the beaches in the Carolinas, for example, which are really a favorite second destination for people. So you end up in a situation there. I know exactly what he's talking about. Hilton and other folks, they got multi-billion-dollar projects there, and that's all sitting there on land that black folk are supposed to have, and now they're making all this money from it, and told them, well, too bad, so sad. And that's exactly where we're sitting at there. So in the Carolinas in particular, just on the coast alone, well, just on that coast alone, for those who haven't been out there, the places like Myrtle Beach and things, they are sitting on a bunch of valuable property out there. It's not a little bit, it's a bunch of it out there. And going to be more, by the way, because as you're having New Yorkers and folk, the Carolinas are now a favorite destination for New Yorkers to migrate to, because Florida has now been gentrified and has been priced out to hell. So now you're starting to see a whole lot of New York transplants, and actually Californians too, as a matter of fact, showing up in the Carolinas now. So it's only getting more valuable. And so black folk are, anybody who's black looking at the land and saying, oh, it ain't worth nothing. These other folk are coming there and driving the values up now that you've been moved out of what is rightfully belonging to you.
Illegal immigrants are buying land. And here's the crazy thing. One, with the New Yorkers coming down, there's one silver lining in that cloud. In South Carolina, the two groups that have been the fastest growing are older white people who are retiring here. They go into their little retirement communities. You know, they really come out in the daytime. So you rarely see them. But the second group are black Americans who moved up north, who ran up north, like a lot of members of my family, coming back south. So that's the silver lining. The black population in South Carolina is the second growest fasting, is mainly because of our people, unfortunately, being priced out of New York City and Philadelphia. But there is another thing, though. Even illegal immigrants can come and buy land. Here's the ironic part of it, that they are able to buy land and can do it legally because of civil rights legislation that our ancestors marched for. But you can't discriminate against someone because of their nationality. Now, they should be able to buy land because of their citizenship, but because of that loophole right there, they can buy land. So I've seen black people lose their land because of a tax default sale after trying to work with these heirs property companies to save it, only for illegal immigrants to purchase it. How I know they're in the country legally? Because I'm teaching their kids who are in school, funded by our tax dollars, but their parents are not paying a dime into our school, in the hospitals, in the roads, in the mailing service, nothing at all, but are getting more rights and access to resources than we.
And that's a good point to bring up there, because in the Carolinas, for example, in Durham, but in the rural areas, man, I'm just telling you right now, for those of you who don't know and you haven't been to the Carolinas, particularly now I drive places. I don't fly, I drive. So me coming from Louisiana, if I go out to the coast in the Carolinas, I drive straight through. So straight through Florence and places like that. I drive through those rural areas. And I'm telling you right now, especially about this time of year, once it starts with springtime, summertime, now it's harvesting season. is either growing, they're either growing or harvesting. And dude, I'm telling you, bus loads of illegals, bus loads. I'm talking about school buses, literal school buses filled with them. Dude, I've even seen them driving some of the farming equipment like down the roads. It was one of the state highways I was on out there. I'll be damned. About 3 or 4 of them hanging off a great big ass huge tractor. It's one of those big tractors, not one of the little ones, one of the big ones that takes up like 3 lanes. And they're dressed as immigrant as they can be, as migrant as they can be, driving the farm equipment down state highways. Now, I know damn well he doesn't have a driver's license. I know damn well he doesn't. But they're out there doing that, the farm equipment, the trucks, everything else. Now I'm thinking to myself, now if black folk owned these farms and we was rocking like this, employing illegals, they would have been took all the land and sold it, confiscated it and sold it. But you take a look at what's going on out there. So when he talks about the illegals showing up there, for those of you who don't know, they are not heavy in the Carolinas. They are super heavy in the Carolinas right now. It is super heavy.
I told people that, yes, they are. And let me tell you this. I want to shop this company now, if I may. It's a black-owned farm company called Bossville Farms in Hampton, South Carolina, right next to my Jasper County, South Carolina. They were able to hold on to the land. They have 80 acres of land, just like the old black families down here used to. And they've made it into a hemp farm. And they sell all type of hemp products, from clothing to lotions to soap, all types of cosmetics. If anybody wants to support, encourage you, please, to patronize Bossville Farms, black owned. That's just an example of what all of us could have done had our land not been stolen from us. And every time I bring this up, people will say, well, sometimes we sell our land. I need people to shut the hell up. Okay, a person who's thirsty in the desert, if you give a man who's dying of thirst a glass of water in a dirty glass, he is still going to drink it because he's desperate. We black people that I know have sold their land only because they had no other option of getting money. Okay, they were struggling to make it, and sometimes they sold their land for far less than what it was worth just because they were desperate to get money. Had we been paid reparations from the start, had our black Wall Streets not been burnt down, had we not been kept out of opportunities for centuries via Jim Crow, black codes, redlining, had our black men not been mass incarcerated, had our neighborhoods not been filled with drugs, like the drugs that killed my grandfather, my mother's father, we would have had our wealth. We would not be in such desperate straits to where you have our people just selling their land off for nothing. When it's not stolen, we're forced into selling it. So that is why people have asked me, what other parts? Well, we know you do reparations. What else are you talking about? Reparations is the beginning, the middle, and the end, okay? Yes, I have other policies, but it's always going to come back to reparations. I tell people, if we were any other group, the people of Guam right now, they're getting increased compensation now under this segregation as Joe Biden for Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. Okay? Now, they only went through that for like 20 years, and they bang on the president's door to get what they're owed. Holocaust survivors have gotten the whole damn country, and they still get reparations. They've been getting it since the 1940s, and they still demand more. Now, the Netherlands is going to pay them. Poland is going to pay them. France is going to pay them. Other countries are now just starting to pay them even more. You have a train company that's going to pay them now because they're using the train tracks that the train company owed. Every group demands what they owe, and they don't let it go. We are the group that's owed the most, been through the most, and we sit there and walk around like it's not important for us to get what we're owed. I am happy to say that win or lose, I have had older black people to young white people, Democrat, Republican, people who never voted before, young men, young women, all that have now turned out to support my reparations campaign. This is how change begins. Change begins when you stand up and make the change.
And that's exactly what it is there. And I'm glad to see, we have to do things differently. We can't do the things that have not been working before. And somehow that's going to continue working here. So I'm glad to hear that as well. Well, Marcel, like I say, we got the election coming up here in a couple of days, It's coming down to the wire on this. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. And I'm just going to let y'all know I'm getting mixed messages, but there is chatter out there that according to some polling that I don't know where it's coming from. They never reveal it to me. I hear it from people on the inside. Some polling is showing me that this is going to be a win. Some showing it's not going to be a win. But let me tell you, there's also chatter that they're trying to play around with the numbers, and I wouldn't put it past them. So this back, if I need people to be poll watchers, and some people want to, but they have to work because in America, election day is not a holiday. So if people could donate, I hate to ask people again, but I have to somehow compensate these poll watchers. They're going to take the day off, but because there was some intel saying that things are looking good for me, and then someone came back and said the opposite. But when they were asked about where is this change coming from, they got all tight mouth. It showed me that some funny business is going on. Like you said, Clyburn is worried. You don't ask the vice president to come down and endorse you if you know you got this in the bag. Okay? He's talking about heirs property. He even mentioned yesterday about the GI descendants. I am one of them. My great-grandfather is a World War II vet. He's still alive. How about he is looking for them to get compensation? He knows that's not really what that bill says. But okay, the point is he's trying to talk specific Black lineage policy. He wouldn't be doing all of this, billboards and signs, if he knew he had this in the bag. He doesn't. I am convinced, though, if he sees he's going to lose, something tells me I don't see them letting that be. But we should not allow them to do that. So if anyone can donate whatever they can, it will go toward helping us to compensate people who will take the day off and poll watch. We need it. We cannot let them take this from us, and don't put it past them to do it.
I want to send a message out to my people there in the Carolinas right now. And by the way, Marcel, do you have to be a citizen of South Carolina to be a poll watcher?
You do. And not only do you have to be a citizen, because they want to make it difficult, you also have to be a resident of the county in where you're going to do a poll watching. And we have people, like I said, but, the poverty rate here is high. Just because people see Black people walking around looking good and, we may see us eating out and going to a restaurant, people think we got it going on. You find out real fast. You miss one day at work, some people almost going to be out the house. That's literally how our people are living here. Paycheck to paycheck, day to day. But because we look good and we walk around and they see us out and we are people who know how to have a smile on our face, even when things are hard, people don't realize what a lot of our people are going through. So you have to not just be a citizen of South Carolina, you have to also be a citizen of the county in where you are going to watch the polls. We have a good number of people. It's just trying to, we've been asking them to volunteer, which a lot of them say I would love to, but they can't miss that money. And I'm not sure if I can compensate their whole check, but I can give them something if I get the donations in.
Then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask for everybody listening to me here right now. I want you to contribute to Marcel's campaign here. And when Marcel gets off the line, I want to explain to you all, because I've seen some things and I want to address those myself, but I want you to contribute to his campaign. And also I'm asking for those of you who are in, because that's a specific county. I keep forgetting the name of the county that's happening in there. Which county is that?
South Carolina District 6 is 11 counties. I'm going to try to name them. I always miss one. Richland, Orangeburg, Calhoun, Clarendon, Sumter, Williamsburg, Charleston, Dorchester, Bamberg, Allendale, Hampton, Carleton, and of course my home county, the one I like the most, because I have to, Jasper. So those counties there.
All right, Charleston's the one I was thinking about. To my folks who live out in any of those counties there, I want you to get in touch with Marcel. I want you all to get in touch with Marcel. Understand something. This is the Black Power movement of our generation.
That's right.
I've been doing this for over a decade now. If you'll all remember, the first decade of TheBlackChannel, I didn't allow anybody to contribute. I paid the whole thing out of my own pocket. Folks started getting offended about that. I allowed them to contribute, but the billboards and stuff that I pay like that, I paid for that out of my own pocket. And that's not to say that everybody can do something like that. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is I want to do a hell of a lot more. If I could have, I would put a whole lot more into these things if I were able, but I'm not able to. However, I never allowed what I was not able to do to prevent me from doing what I was able to do. So maybe you don't have $1,000, $500, $200. You got a day, damn it. You got 8 little hours. You've got time to be able to put in. So for our generation, just understand something. You got folks out here cooning and buffooning for free. You got folks out here pushing the LGBT agenda for free, the immigrant agenda for free, the backsliding agenda for free, being Biden butt kissers for free. We're not going to get a damn thing done if we don't sit up here and show that we are all the way about this life. This is not a test of money, to be totally honest. This is a test of wills. Is what this is. This is about who's got the strongest willpower, and you cannot put it all on just one person or one group of people. So I want everybody here to understand, do your part. If you live in any of those counties, Charleston, Sumter, if you live in any of those counties, you need to get in touch with this man. I want you to do that. And what I want you to do is if you are showing up there, I want you to tag me on Twitter when you are there. When you are there, you have my permission to tag me on Twitter and put a picture of, you don't necessarily have to show yourself necessarily, but if you're at the polls there, I want you to tag me on Twitter when you get there on election day, and I'm going to retweet every person who does that. I don't even check my tweets like that, but this will be the one time I do it. And I'll check on that because I want you all to understand this is what we are needed for. This is what we're supposed to be doing. These other folks are about it. They're about it to a suicidal extent. They see nothing happening. You can see how janky the damn broadband is. You can see how bad the roads are. You can see how terrible the condition is. And you got a bunch of these other folk who are like, they are just hell bent on riding this thing into the damn concrete. We have to show that we are cut different than that. And we're not going to accept the status quo. Marcel, go ahead and give everybody the information on how they can contact you.
So thank you. First of all, marcelforcongress.com/donate if you would like to donate. And if you would like to contact me, it is repairblackAmerica@marcelforcongress.com. repairblackAmerica@marcelforcongress.com. I will put you in contact with my coordinator of the poll watchers and people who, and for this one, you don't have to be a citizen, want to drive people to and from the polls, because I was in Clyburn's hometown. The poverty was heartbreaking. I don't even want to talk about it. But a lot of people had transportation issues. So that's poverty preventing people from voting if they would like to vote. So please, repair Black America at marcelforcongress.com.
Definitely, like I say, that's a good thing. For those of you who are in the North Carolina or Georgia or whatever, you don't have to be a citizen to drive people to the polls if it comes to that. So that's just one date in particular. I've already been out there. I'm going to tell y'all right now, don't be surprised if I make a return trip. Don't be surprised if I make a return trip this Tuesday. It means just that much to me. There's a reason for that. It means just that much to me. Marcel, you've done an incredible job here. You've gone above and beyond. You put your money where your mouth is. You put your time and your effort where it is. And for that alone, if nothing else, we already owe you an immeasurable debt.
But thank you, James. It's been an honor. I don't care what happens Tuesday. The fact that I was able to go, whether it was on YouTube programs, Fox Soul, the Black News Channel, on the stage yesterday at the state Democratic Convention, the fact that I was able to stand my ground for my people, shut down all these anti-Black arguments, people who thought they had that smoke for me, but by the time the smoke cleared, I was still standing and they were nowhere to be found. It was an honor for me to do that on behalf of my people, shut down all these lies and all these excuses they try to give for doing our people wrong. So it's been an honor. Let me tell y'all, Tuesday, lose or win, this is only the beginning. Only the beginning. If Clyburn manages to slither his way back in there, I'm going to be on his tail. The days of them not doing right by us, but expect us to show up and save them are over. And I can't wait to show them that I mean every word of it.
Well, I want to thank you for showing up here tonight, and you've definitely done a good amount of work here. And we're going to be on their asses all the way through Election Day and beyond. So definitely this Tuesday, folks, be out there, get in touch with Marcel. This is our opportunity to make our mark seen, and you damn well better believe they're going to be noticing it. Thank you very much for checking in with us tonight, Marcel.
You take care.
Marcel Dixon checking in with us here in the Carolinas now. Let me go ahead and address something else here. because I want you to know, for those of you who are not aware of your history, and don't keep up with it, or you don't recall your history, maybe some of you are a little bit too young to know that. Let me remind you of a couple of things here. This isn't Jason Black conjecture. This is history. For those of you who are old enough to remember 1979, Jimmy Carter was running for re-election. Jimmy Carter was running for re-election, and he was running against the then governor of California, and former actor, former president of the Screen Actors Guild, named Ronald Wilson Reagan. As we all know, Ronald Reagan was a bellwether moment that changed the trajectory of America, but black society in particular. Jimmy Carter was running against Ronald Wilson Reagan. And everybody knew Ronald Reagan was a hard right-winger, and they knew what direction he was going to take the country in. But stop me if this sounds familiar. Inflation was out of control in 1979. 1977, 78, 79, the oil embargo, inflation was out of control. Prices were out of control. I saw a story early today from CNN talking about the inflated prices of cereal are where they were in the 1970s when inflation was out of control in the 1970s. History has repeated itself. It's not just rhyming anymore. It's outright repeating itself now. It's outright repeating itself. And if you'll remember, as a result of that, Senator Ted Kennedy, Jimmy Carter was the sitting president, and Senator Ted Kennedy decided to primary him. He primaried the Democrats' incumbent candidate. Folk were telling him, don't do it, Ted. Don't do it. This is terrible. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because they understood how these things go. They were worried about him splitting the vote. And Ted Kennedy was like, take a look at the cost of cereal, food, gas prices, the Delta Force fiasco. For those of you who want to look that up, it wasn't just a movie, Delta Force. And by the way, Canon Pictures and how they were in bed with the CIA, that's great Googling for you. But the prices of food and gas lines and petroleum prices out of this world and everything else. And Ted Kennedy was like, no, we got to do things differently here because Carter's not going to be able to beat this guy like that. We need to show the people that we're different. And Ted Kennedy primaried Jimmy Carter. And even though he didn't beat Jimmy Carter, you'll remember at the Democratic National Convention, there was this real awkward thing where Kennedy finally ceded that Carter had the votes to be nominated for the Democrat candidate for president. But basically, he refused to stand side by side with Carter. When Carter walked to the left side of the stage, Kennedy walked back to the right side of the stage. When Carter walked back over to the right side of the stage, Kennedy walked back over to the left side of the stage. And needless to say, we all know what happened. Ronald Wilson Reagan won in a landslide. When Jimmy Carter went on to run against Reagan, he lost by a landslide. That was 1980. 20 years later, after Bill Clinton had been president for 8 years in the 1990s, it seemed to be a fait accompli that his vice president, Al Gore, who had been with him this whole time, former senator from Tennessee, vice president, he had been right side by side with Bill Clinton for 8 years through the 90s, saxophone playing on Arsenio and every damn thing else. And by the time 2000 runs around, one of the sons of a blue bloods family from Massachusetts comes down to Texas. He becomes Governor George W. Bush. And he wants to run for president in 2000. And it seemed like Al Gore should have been a shoo-in. The tea leaves certainly said that, but the winds of change were blowing in a very ominous direction. And it was a fella who captivated not the old folks, but the young people. a third-party candidate by the name of Ralph Nader. If you'll remember, in 2000, it was a candidate by the name of Ralph Nader. And Ralph Nader said, you know, there's not a difference. You're voting for the bad guy on the left and the bad guy on the right. It's not the lesser of two evils. And Ralph Nader was determined to run in 2000, even though the Democratic Party was trying to tell him, no, don't do this. It'll weaken the candidate. Don't do this. Don't do this. It'll weaken the candidate. And we all saw what happened in 2000. Now, didn't we? Fast forward 16 years. After she failed to be able to overcome the political juggernaut that was Barack Hussein Obama, that backroom deal that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama made where he would run in 2000, he finally got her to concede, I'll run in 2008, and in 2016, we'll back you then. Obama held up his end of the bargain, but by the time we get to 2016, Obama was a changed candidate and a changed man. People saw what he really was, particularly black society saw what he really was, and despite what the propaganda of the national white corporate media tried to say, Barack Obama was not nearly the potent force in 2016 that he was in 2008. He was a damaged, dilapidated old derelict. And Hillary Clinton was running for president, and she failed to be able to get herself across. He failed to get her across the finish line. And if you'll all remember, Jill Stein and her running mate, Ajamu Baraka, who was in my documentary film Race War. In 2016, Jill Stein and Ajamu Baraka ran for the Green Party. And everybody said, we ain't worried about them. We ain't worried about them. We're not worried about them. There's no way in the world we could lose against Trump. She got this thing sewed up. There's no way she could lose against Trump. CNN said, oh, please, the election's already over. Remember that? That's what you get for listening to your corporate media puppets. They said the election's already over. It's a fait accompli. You can all go home. Don't worry about it. We'll all be celebrating in the morning, and you will all remember it was this microphone that went down the numbers a year in advance and said, do not believe the white corporate media outlets. Do not believe them. I went down state by state and named the states that Donald Trump could win and the states that I believed that he would win almost a year in advance. You can go back and check those. Accuracy matters. When you talk about just little old Jason Black up against Kornacki and Chuck Todd and all these 5150 politics and 50, whoever they are, Politico and all these mega billion-dollar political analysts who work for the corporations, and yet little old me sat here on the internet and I was able to outmaneuver all of them and outanalyze all of them. They got it dead wrong. We got it dead on the money. We got it dead on the money. That's the thing right there for us to understand. We got it dead on the money. And when it finally was election day, we saw what happened. Hillary Clinton got trounced. Hillary Clinton got trounced. And when it was over, do you know who Hillary Clinton's campaign was blaming? They were blaming Jill Stein and Ajamu Baraka. They had grossly overestimated the enthusiasm that people would have for Hillary Clinton, and they grossly underestimated the enthusiasm that people would have for Hillary Clinton's opponent. And we all saw how that turned out. I'm not telling you conjecture. I'm showing you historical precedents, and those are just 3 presidential ones. Those are just 3 presidential ones. We don't even have to talk about ones like California, Georgia, Texas, New York. That's just the presidential ones that you can all identify with and readily recognize. So when you sit up here and you hear somebody tell you about what can't happen and what won't happen and this, that, and the other, let me tell you right now, Ralph Nader didn't get 51% of the vote. He didn't get 10%. Let me tell you all what they're worried about right now. They're worried that politics are supposed to go a certain way. They worry that there will be bellwethers that the candidate is weak. They are worried about bellwethers that indicate that the candidate is weak. That the political sentiment has begun to shift. That the things that motivated voters to vote for in days past no longer apply. That's what they're looking at now. They're looking to see, understand something. There's a reason why they count these things as studiously as they can, because they're looking to see if they can demonstrably, empirically measure whether or not the tone and the sentiment among the voters is changed. They're checking to see if the tone and the sentiment of the voters has changed. That's what they're looking for. And this is our opportunity to demonstrate to them in no uncertain terms that the tone and the sentiment has changed. That's what we're looking to see. Whether or not the tone and the sentiment has changed. And this is our moment to make it demonstrably clear. They ain't sending down Kamala Harris because they're bored. They don't send down folk from the very top, people. If you think they're not responding to the black media and what we're doing, they're not sending down Kamala Harris because she's bored. There's crisis all over the damn place. They're sending her down because they're hoping that the sister girls, ski, wee, black, Greek, HBCU, old fogey church crowd can pull out one more win. You don't send her down if everything's all right. There's a bunch of folks running. You don't send somebody down because everything's all right. You send them down because you're in trouble. Remember in Virginia a few months ago, Terry McAuliffe, they sent Barack Obama down there. You don't send folk that heavy hitters like that down to somebody if everything's all right. You don't do that if everything's going okay. You do that when all hell's breaking loose. You do that when you checked the tea leaves and you checked the sentiment and you checked the direction of the wind and you're realizing, ooh, hell, we are in trouble. We're in trouble. We could lose. We could lose. We don't give a damn what they're saying on Twitter. We could lose. We could lose. Let me tell you right now, if Jim Clyburn's numbers, and let me be very clear about this, if his numbers don't look identical to the way that they did 2 years ago, if they don't look identical to the way they did 2 years ago, there are all types of alarm bells going off right now. If they don't look the way they did 2 years ago, there are all types of alarm bells going off right now. And it's not enough for people to sit up here and talk a good game. It's not enough for them to talk a good game. They have to be about that. They have to be about that. So this is our opportunity to make it clear to the world where we stand on this. And yes, it could be another 1980. It damn sure can. It could be another 2000. It could be another 2016. Remember, nobody thought AOC could win either, by the way. I know that's a strange one. By the way, we're sitting up here talking about AOC. Nobody thought they didn't think she was going to win. They did not believe that she was going to win. All the political orthodoxy was like, yeah, not her. So don't let these people sit up here and pick and choose for you, and don't let people intimidate you. That's all a part of politics, is trying to intimidate you into believing that everything is in the bag for them. Yeah, because if you're against them, they don't want you to be moralized. They don't want you to be mobilized against them. That's important for them. However, we've touched on a lot here tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the telephone lines for you now. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the Black media. And definitely make sure that you go over there to Marcel's website. And we need to show support in that way, because those are the kind of things that folks take a look at. They take a look at that. In this internet era, they take a look at who mobilizes and who gets up. They take a look at who mobilizes and who gets up. They take a look at when money is moving. They take a look at when those kind of things happen. Those are not things that happen in a vacuum. They take a look and they count and they keep track of when these things occur. They keep track of that. The old generation learned this. They learned this at the feet and at the knee of Dr. King and Medgar Evers. They learned from them about getting mobilized, getting in the streets, making sure that they're seen, showing up on all these different levels. They made sure that people understood that. They made sure that people understood that. Our generation needs to have the same thing. It's cool to be on Twitter and stuff. That's great, but everything can't be done online. Everything can't be done online. And it's going to require people to get out there. So this is your moment to be seen for that. This is your moment to be seen for that. We're going to go ahead and hit the telephone lines. Before I do, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program here. The Jughead from over there in the UK, thank you very much here. Big shout out to Kirkendog, and super big shout out here to Henry Frick 1. I see you there. We're going to give him hell all day and all night, so thank you very much for that as well here. We're going to go ahead and get the phone lines. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933, your personal access code to the Black media. Let's go ahead and get caller from area code 928. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Bruce from Arizona.
Bruce from Arizona. We're at in Arizona.
Parker.
Okay, Bruce from Parker, Arizona. And what's on your mind?
I put on Twitter that Ari Melber should have Marcel on there, and I put it on there a couple of times, and nope. And I was just, and I wrote, are you afraid?
Short answer to that is yes, they are. Understand, your cable news outlets today are just wholly owned subsidiaries of the political parties now. That's all they do. That's their job, is to protect and shield these people. So that's the issue.
Yeah.
Now let me find out here. Are you in the chat room?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
In fact,
I'm looking for somebody in particular.
I just got you. No, I just got you. On YouTube.
Okay. Well, welcome to the family, brother. Make sure you subscribe to the channel here. And by the way, James in the chat room, you have 2 minutes to be on the line. If you are not, you'll be banned. Caller from area code 912. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is the Black Tree Roots. My name is Tony. I'm calling from Brunswick, Georgia, home of Ahmaud Arbery.
Okay, Tony from Brunswick. What's on your mind?
I need to talk to you about. Excuse me?
Okay, what's on your mind, Tony?
It's so much on my mind, Jason. But let me tell you, I'm one of those old niggas you talk about. But I'm born in Birmingham, Alabama, 1954 Brown v. Board Education. Jaden, just a minute of things I need to talk to you about. But I want you to do something for me. I want you to get Professor Black Truth. I want you to get Tariq Nasheed. I want you to get everybody you know, including yourself. Y'all come down here and help me, man. Because I tell you something. There's a lot of black folks, let me tell you that, down here.
Tony, we're discussing something in particular tonight.
I need to know how to get in contact with you because I've been trying to get some things done.
Tony, we're discussing something in particular tonight. So if you wish to discuss something off topic, we'd have to discuss that at another time. But thank you very much for checking in here tonight. Folks, it is not open mic night, so let's not do that. Caller from area code 904. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
What's going on, Jason Black? This is John calling out of Gainesville, Florida.
All right, John, out of Gainesville. What's on your mind?
I just had a question about what do you think about the big time corporations that's trying to erase like Black American workers by hiring in illegal immigrants? You know the old saying that they say, oh, Black people don't want to work, this, that, and the third. It's the wages, and nobody's paying attention to that. So I was just trying to get some insight on you. Well, maybe we could like mobilize through the Department of Labor, who, you know how when Biden made a mandate for everybody to take a vaccine, why can't the Department of Labor follow their mandates and penalize companies for hiring illegal immigrants? That's all I had to say to you.
Well, absolutely. And the reason for it is because it is government policy. On the one hand, you have Democrats who say that they're for it and Republicans saying they're against it, and then they're both making sure they keep the door open. So the one party gives the other party cover to do something that's not popular with their constituents. So it's government policy is what it is. You can't have something like this happening if it's not government policy. And I'm not just talking about the federal level. I'm talking about the state level also. Because if you had the situation where if black folk were doing all this, if we owned all these farms and had all these illegals coming in, please, it would be the war on rutabagas. Forget the war on drugs. It'd be the war on turnips is what the hell it would be. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Let me get caller from area code 505. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello, Mr. Black. This is Najee calling from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
All right. What's your name again?
Najee.
All right. Najee, what's on your mind?
I just wanted to say thanks for the broadcast tonight. It was great. I just want to let you know that I did send you that email, so it's there. Thanks. Be one.
All right, thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 843. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, this is Phil from Beaufort, South Carolina.
Phil from Beaufort, and oh boy, what's on your mind?
No, I'm here. I'm calling to help. I know you spent a lot of money to help Marcel. I'm going to help you. The last primary that
Phil,
that Clyburn was in.
Phil. Wait. Slow down.
Go ahead.
Hold on just a moment, Phil. Very, very important here. Let me make sure I gotta make sure I got things together for you. So, kind of important. And I'm not gonna crank it up full speed yet, but I got a feeling I need to dust off the banjo just in case. You know, All right, Phil. What's
you're not gonna need it.
Are you sure,
okay,
Phil? Because I'm dusting off my banjo over here. I'm dusting it off.
All right. Okay.
Go on, Phil. Dude, if you're gonna talk, you're wasting time.
Okay. No, okay. We had a chance now. It's like lightning in a bottle to get rid of Clyburn. I used to live in the 6th district, and I used to vote in the 6th district. The last time he was in a primary was 2014. It was 8 years ago. So the people who support him are not used to voting in a primary. And then when since his last primary, they have redistricted they redrew the lines for the 6th district, and now it goes from like Lake City and Johnsonville and stuff like that in Florence County, all the way to the Georgia line. And those people down in Georgia, not Georgia, but like Hampton County and Jasper County, where Marcel is from, they don't know Clyburn like that. And so it's just a big opportunity now to get him out of office. And the only way you're going to get him out of office is in the primary, because if he wins that primary, he's going to win that election. And so, places like this, there's some counties where the whole county is in the district.
Not necessarily.
Like Allendale.
Okay, that's a misnomer, though. Just because a candidate wins a primary, even in a district that seems to be weighted towards them, that doesn't guarantee they're going to win the election. That actually doesn't, because that's all going to be dependent upon. That depends on how mobilized their base is for them. The way congressional lines are drawn today is really not nearly as lopsided in some areas as people might think, which is why they keep continually redrawing them. So while Clyburn's district is in many ways considered to be safe, remember, the definition of the word safe in politics is contingent upon your ability to mobilize your base.
I agree, and that's why I'm calling, because we got an opportunity now we never had before. That district he's in is 57% black people, and so that means it's about 70% Democrat. And so no Republican is going to win that seat, even though the Republicans run on the other side of both black. But if Clyburn wins that seat, if he wins that primary, he's unlikely to lose the election. But anyway, like I said, he's in a lot of counties that don't know him, and he never represented them, and they are up for grabs. Places like Allendale, he never ran in Allendale, and Bamberg and Jasper and Hampton, they are way down, close to Georgia, and so that's naturally where Marcel is from, and he's got an advantage down there. Place like Colleton, that's where Walterboro is. The whole county is in 6th district, and Clarendon County. That's if you people who know people who live in Manning and like Somerton, where Briggs versus Elliott, that school district, that whole county is in the 6th district. So if you know anybody that lives there or you're from there, you need to call your folks and tell them to vote, because even in South Carolina, a lot of people don't know what counties are where. They don't know that Columbia is in Richland County.
Well, let me find out here, Phil. You've obviously been a very dedicated individual. You've definitely been dedicated to buck dancing over the years. Have you joined up with Marcel so you can help his campaign?
I was something the other day, and I don't know him.
That did not answer my question, Phil. Let me try again. Have you contacted Marcel so that you can help his campaign? Because you spend so much time talking about these things. And if you're going to call up and give us a geography and a civics lesson, especially with the amount of concern you have expressed for years and whatnot, by the way, then certainly you should be involved here, should you not?
Well, I feel like I'm involved. I'm a Republican, and people know who I am, and I want Clyburn out as much as anybody else on either side. So, I didn't turn into I support what he's doing. So, I'm trying to support him now, because if people know that places like Clyburn's from Sumter, and they took all of.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where'd that come from? Damn it.
I don't know.
Damn it. Something must have happened. There must have been a glitch in the Matrix or something. But anyway, Buford, Phil, you were saying?
Well, like I said, I'm in the District 1 part of Beaufort, but even part of Beaufort County, the black parts of Beaufort County are in the 6th district. They've never voted for Clyburn.
Okay, but here's the real thing. Here's the real thing. If you are conceding that a Republican cannot win against Clyburn, then that's all the more reason that you should be active helping somebody, a viable candidate primary in Clyburn. And what you're telling me is that you've done all this analysis, but yet you're not part of the campaign. So why would that be the case?
Well, I am on the phone constantly telling people to vote in the Democrat primary against Clyburn.
Well, that's very nice of you if you're doing that, but if you're not organized with Marcel, it's not helping. Calling those three white folk you have beers with on Sunday to watch Fox News. I mean, I know that makes you feel like you might be doing something there, but I'm saying if you're not coordinating with Marcel, that's the reason why you have campaigns. So if you're not coordinating with them, you're not actually doing anything, Phil.
Well, I mean, if I can be heard on those talk radio stations that cover all of this, like this, both 6th and 7th district, and I've never heard him on there, that's not really my fault. I mean, if he wants my help, then I mean, I'll send the money, but I'm just trying to get the voice out here because you have the platform here, and you have people who live in South Carolina and can hear and can.
Well,
know
I definitely think that's a good idea.
Like,
I think that's a good idea if you've been contributing, like I say, because lip service is not going to get it. Lip service is not going to get it. So definitely, if you are putting in, I'm glad to see that you are as knowledgeable about those districts as you are. That's very, very good to have that. At the end of the day, though, like I say, Phil, you might actually be able to redeem yourself at some point. If that happens, you might be able to redeem yourself.
I don't have anything to redeem. I'm trying to help out. You're the one who's putting me down.
Phil.
I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help your money go farther.
Phil.
I'm trying to help his efforts go farther.
All that buck dancing you've been doing for years, you don't think you got to redeem yourself? Really?
I vote in the 1st district, and I am still a Trump person, which still, I mean, I didn't want to bring that back up, but I'm trying to work with you because I don't want you to have wasted your time because people don't know that Clyburn is really vulnerable down here. He's from Sumter, and he doesn't even have half of Sumter County in the 6th district, and he's from Sumter. The only parts they gave him of Sumter County were the black parts of Sumter City and some of the outskirts rural areas. And he's real vulnerable. And I just want people to know who listen to you, because a lot of people have South Carolina connections. Call your people, come down here, and get involved. And I mean, not because you got up until Tuesday, really. I mean, it's not like it's around the corner, but. He can be, if Marcel wants to be on Live 95 in Florence, he can call in, and they will put him on like they put me on, and he can give his whole pitch to that whole group, because that radio station covers the lower part of Florence County, and it goes into Sumter and Orangeburg and Calhoun County, all those places that are, not really new to Clyburn. But the new parts of Clyburn
speaking of folks
Georgia,
getting
where he lives.
Somebody's people come get Phil. That's what we're gonna do. Well, Phil, thank you very much for letting us know there. We appreciate hearing. I can't say I appreciate hearing from him, but that's Phil checking in from Buford. Like I say, he tried it. He's like, well, don't worry, I'm a reformed citizen. Everything's fine. You thought he was okay, and then gave him a few minutes, and he relapsed. Gave him a few minutes and then he relapsed. He just couldn't help himself. So, all right. Well, like I say here, folks, definitely you are in the midst of a operation and a situation that is aimed at steering your behavior. So you definitely need to be on guard against that. This Tuesday coming up, if you are in South Carolina, anywhere near South Carolina, you need to be there. That's the place to be. You don't have anything more important happening. Everybody is testing our mettle. White supremacists showing up with guns. Politicians pushing buffers. The corporations pushing deviant agendas. Everybody is testing our mettle to see if we're all talk or not. This is your opportunity to show that you aren't. So definitely get involved and be involved. I want to thank all of you for joining us here on tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the haven of intelligent Black thought. We do this every weekend, over 141,000 subscribers and rising, so definitely make sure you're a part of that. Click that red subscribe button. This is my backup channel, but make sure you go ahead and hit that as well. Click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every time. And if you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to go there and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work as referenced earlier in the broadcast. 7 a.m., Gentrified, Race War, all available on DVD and streaming. Go to blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank all of you for joining us here tonight. Thank you for contributing on Super Chat, Cash App, or PayPal. Thank you very much for supporting us. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future, and the future is dominance.